Damn, son, where'd you find this?
You're listening to Psychedelic Porn Crumpets live in the KEXP studios. They'll be at the Tractor Tavern here in Seattle tonight, and the album And Now for the Whatchamacallit, that song called Bill's Mandolin. And I hear that there's actually a real mandolin. Was it your grandfather's, Jack?
Yeah, it was actually my granddad's mandolin, which he gave to me in England, like the first time we sort of went on tour there. And I got it probably like 2 or 3 days actually into the tour, and it didn't have a case, so I sort of had to like carry it around for the entire trip. But it came with us pubs and all sorts of places. I think I passed out with it in Amsterdam, but woke up with it in my hand.
I've got a good photo of you in the airport.
Yeah, it was. I passed out in the airport with it, and it just became like our mascot, like the emblem. So as soon as I brought it back to Australia, I was like, all right, it needs a jingle. So then Bill's Mandolin came out.
And it needs a case.
It's sitting on my desk at the moment. I managed to put it in the track, but I didn't want to bring it anywhere now because it's really old. I think the only thing we played on it was like Battle of Evermore, and then it all went out of tune, and we've never figured out the tuning of that, like Jimmy Page tuning. I'm sure you could look it up, but...
Did you do a little thing like where in the world is Bill's mandolin, take photos of it everywhere?
Oh, no, we should have. We should have done that.
That's a good idea. Yeah, we should have done that.
How did the mandolin enjoy tour life?
It was rough.
It was rough.
It got as beat as we did, but it was, yeah... It came through.
There is no better way to describe Psychedelic Porn Crumpets than pure fun to listen to. And I'm wondering, did the recording process for your album reflect the fun that we hear in these live shows?
The recording process, kind of. I suppose it goes from bedroom to bedroom, really, so it's probably not as enjoyable. But we first did the first album in a barn that I used to live in, and in between Luke's house and Danny's house of doing like drums in this barn, and sort of send files to each other and sort of piece it together that way. And then it probably sounded terrible before we actually handed it to our friend Jelly, who used to play in the Growl, and like he's just become sort of a fifth member or a sixth member now. We've got Chris, I suppose. So yeah, you can wave, Chris. Yeah, and then I think it just sort of evolved from there, and we eventually kept the same bad techniques, and now we're trying to get rid of those techniques, and he's getting better, and we keep handing him worse material, so which he can fix up. But
do you start with any kind of concept or idea? Because I read something about like a 1930s reimagined carnival, or I imagine the concept changes over time, but do you try to get a visual in your head when you're writing these songs?
Usually. Sometimes you try and, I don't know, the first album and the first two albums was kind of just us kind of finding ourselves as a band, I think, and just being like, where do we go and how do we sort of take music? But on the third one, we kind of wanted to do something a bit different. So there was a concept, but then we went and did our first festival in Party in the Paddock and met all these really strange people in Tasmania, like a Smurf at like 3 a.m. with all this like face paint hanging off. And obviously like the end of sort of the all the dregs that are left from the festival when the last band plays at like Sunday at like 3 a.m. So there was sort of this imagination of let's put a festival album together. And then it kind of went into sort of 1940s England. So because we found a little sample thing of, what was it like? It was like a little village thing.
It was like it was like, yeah, an old, yeah. It was like I don't know, it was like a post-war documentary or something from England. And it was in the town where Jack grew up in England, so it became this nostalgic kind of thing of like a carnival, an English carnival.
That festival that you describe in Tasmania kind of sounds like you're describing the cover art for for the Whatchamacallit. It's like a fairy tale dreamscape with botanicals and mushrooms and flora and fauna. How did that come about?
That was our friend Ben Giles, he's from England, and we found all his artwork. I think it was just through Instagram or Tumblr or something like that. But he was just putting together all these really cool collages. Yeah. And I think the idea of what we were doing as well, we kind of wanted to create a bit more of a collage with the music, of just adding bits that kind of didn't fit together, but they might do eventually. So a lot of the guitars were like pitch shifted and reversed, and then pitch shifted down an octave or up an octave, up 2 octaves. So it sounds like kind of like organs. And so a lot of that album was kind of just us almost cutting and pasting bits and pieces. So to have him and sort of match it together was like really good. We got worried that the album art was way better than the record. We were like, oh my God, what are we going to release here? Yeah, and then sort of was convinced by other people that, yeah, it was a lot better than the album, so... Now, yeah. No,
I think you live up to the artwork.
Thank you.
You've written a lot of music. You're also incredibly busy. It sounds like you built your own studio. You have your own record label. Creativity firing on all pistons with this band. It sounds like you just have like all these amazing ideas. It seems like you all kind of sync pretty well. Creativity, a lot of chemistry.
Yeah, I think, well, I suppose when we play live, it kind of takes on its own sort of thing, and what we've been struggling with is obviously playing live, we completely get away from the song until we're like, maybe we should go back and actually listen to it. Like, after you've played it for like 3 or 4 years, it just becomes its own entity, and then after, I don't know, we're like, okay, I think this is going about 20 BPM too quick, and it turns into like a punk show at the end of, I don't know, so we're all kind of trying to find this rhythm, I suppose, where we can, was that the question? I don't know.
There's just lots of different versions of everyone, I think. So it's like, there's like a live version, then like a studio version, and then... But I suppose, yeah, creatively, like you're all together all the time on the road, so you kind of gel in a different way when you're touring a lot, so...
And you have toured quite a bit. How's it been sort of moving from the pubs in Perth to these big stages, and you're touring with so many great people?
I mean, the tour we're on at the moment was like Meat Bodies and Levitation Room. They're like, and Morgan Delt we play with in LA, who are some of our favourite bands. Like the last tour we went with Frankie and the Witch Fingers, and we're sort of like, as if we're like, they're supporting us. It was unbelievable. So we'd just come and play with them, like, I don't know, like we'd support them if we had a show. So it was really nice to sort of come over and see how sort of immersed the West Coast music scene is. It's huge. It goes all the way from like LA up to obviously Seattle, and even Vancouver was really cool when we went there. And it's kind of similar to what's going on in Perth, really, like, or Australia. It seems to have like quite a distinctive sound with especially the LA or the California music scene, where it's like a lot of bands sort of going from that OC's pocket, and you've got Ty Segall and they Wand, and you've got over in Australia like King Gizzard and Tim Impala and Pond, and it's really matched together, and hence why you've got like festivals like Desert Days and like in Joshua Tree coming up. It's a really cool, I suppose, time to be creating music in that sort of genre. It's more freedom, I suppose, to write and create.
So many people talk about how isolated Perth is, and could be one of the reasons that there's such a great, music community there that pulls together. And so many great bands have come out of there. You just named a couple, Pond and Tame Impala. I mean, I remember when both of those bands were starting out, and now, I mean, it must be fun to see them around town. Is it a small enough community that everybody's going out to the same shows and playing the same venues?
I suppose it is. Like, everyone's sort of... I like the guy who mixes our records, like best mates with Jelly, who's good mates with Kevin. I think he was around his house the other day telling us a story where he's like, I think I'm going to get a synth, and Kevin's like, just have this one. So it's like, just
it's a small world. The world gets a little bit small.
I suppose we're all within 1 degree of separation from each other, but I mean, it'd be pretty cool. Well, I don't think we've actually had a conversation with those guys, but they're always on tour as well, but it would be lovely too.
But you did bump into the folks from Sleepy Jackson. You were just telling me that we
Malcolm,
played right before.
Yeah, no, he's a legend. Down at the Indie Bar. Big shout out to the Indie Bar. There you go. Yeah, I used to work there. Actually, we were playing a song, Kick-Ons, which was about me actually getting fired for singing a Queen track at the open mic night, but I don't think we're doing that one. But, yeah, they dragged me off.
We should get you to do that one for us here. We won't drag you off. You won't get fired from KEXP.
Yeah, it was a bad rendition of a Freddie Mercury track, but...
Psychedelic Porn Crumpets live here in the KEXP studios. They are playing the Tractor Tavern tonight. Might be a few tickets left for that for some lucky folks if you act quickly. And you have a couple more songs. Going to play something from High Visceral Part 1?
Yeah, Cubensis Lenses.
nature made a plan for those. And in return I'm hoping that I won't have to stone, rather get stoned without the looks of reading their horoscopes before they get high. It might be easy to ignore, I've seen it before. Try and remember to remember it more, cause I completely forgot. I was so lost inside his head, and I was looking for my thoughts. Hey, it's got to the mess, 1 million pieces. I really couldn't care less, and I still take breaths. I am the feature, more my reality. Oh, makes it so. Well, I'm so crazy. Visions with my intentions. I'm daunted by interest, and the show goes on without me, without me, without me.
Who's right?
I need a washer for this one. Shower.
Psychedelic Porn Crumpets live on KEXP.
All right. Cornflake? Yeah, beauty.
Too serious. I got so caught up in a thinking binge and let life take over. And let life take over.
Nicely done. You might have surpassed your amazing artwork on that one.
Definitely should have brought a towel with me, but I can't believe how well I am. Thank you very much for having us on, though. It's been incredible.
It's been super fun for us as well. It's Psychedelic Porn Crumpets, live on KEXP, playing tonight at the Tractor Tavern, the new album, and now for the whatchamacallit. So great to have you here. Thanks again.
Cool. Thank you very much, Cheryl.
You've got to tune to KEXP Seattle. Discover new music at listener-powered KEXP.org.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?